Good evening and welcome to episode 12 of Talking Trash. I'm James Langfield.
I'm Claire Abraham.
Bohan.
And tonight we are going to be discussing our top 5, and please say I've got this right this week, our top 5 NXT draft picks, as in guys we want to see come up from NXT. Please say I've got it right this time.
You have.
I think we've got it right this
Thank God for that, because we all know what happened last time, but this time we're all on the same page, we're all got the same list. So yes, this week we're going to be going through NXT and the roster of NXT, and I've got 5, Claire's got 5, Bohan's got 5. We're going to discuss our top 5 guys we want to see within the NXT universe jump up to the main roster. So we'll kick things off with Bohan tonight. Bohan, who's your number 5 in terms of a draft pick moving up from NXT to the main roster?
So everyone obviously knows that we did this list the last time, and I managed to lose my original list and ended up redoing it. So my number 5 is actually someone that wasn't on my original list, because my original list looked quite different to this looking over it. But my number 5 is Tommaso Ciampa. She's sick of hearing me say that name, by the way. Like, it used to be to the point wherever I said the word Ciampa, I would get it. But I'm a massive fan of Tommaso Ciampa. I have been for a long time. Was great in Ring of Honor, worked great with the TV belt, really good worker, really solid, stiff work. I reckon there's a real place for Tommaso Ciampa, not necessarily in the main event, not yet anyway, but definitely chasing after like the secondary belts and stuff. I reckon that there's a lot could be done with Tommaso Ciampa around guys like Elias Sampson and Jason Jordan. I reckon he could do enough to be a real shot in the arm for that kind of scene for those guys. So I've picked Ciampa. Since the breakup of him and Gargano, with him being out injured, it wouldn't be a big jump for him just not to go back to NXT at this point either. So, I mean, I reckon he's been ready for quite a long time. He's ready to spread his own wings and fly. They're obviously grooming Tommaso Ciampa. They're obviously grooming Johnny Gargano, to be part of, like, kind of, at least I think, the main event scene when they eventually move him up. Give Ciampa a chance to shine on his own right now. Separate the two of them. You don't need that feud yet anyway. So, yeah, it's Tommaso Ciampa.
No, I can understand that. I like Tommaso Ciampa. Like you said, he's currently injured right now. So whether or not, you mentioned that because he is injured, it's not a massive jump to go straight into the main roster. But for me, creative probably want to close that book on the DIY breakup. They're going to want to have a final Tommaso Ciampa Johnny Gargano match. They're going to want to close that chapter with those two. So I can see him going back to NXT for a bit. But I can totally understand why you made your list.
That's fair enough. My argument would be at that stage, though, that they really ought to just let it play out main roster, because they're getting bigger with the whole continuity between NXT and WWE thing. The next step for using the developmental territory is to set up long-term feuds. I reckon it would probably be the better move.
No, I can understand that. Claire, who made your number 5?
So my number 5 was Hideo Itami. Simply because I think he's one of those people who went into NXT, and there's a few of them I feel that they go into NXT and they could have just went straight onto the main roster. People like Shinsuke, like Aleister Black, there's a few of them who were ready the second they come in the door and they didn't really need to go into NXT for any reason. The guy's been injured twice and out for quite a long time now, and I think he could wrestle in the main roster fine, and I think when he comes back and he's not injured, he should just be put on the main roster at this point. I don't think he needs to go into NXT for another period of time. Unlike Ciampa, I don't really think there's much unfinished business in NXT for him, so I think they could just put him straight on the main roster and hopefully get a bit of time out of him before, there's another injury or something that stops him coming back full time.
No, I can understand that. I mean, I was as stoked as anyone when I heard that Itami, or we know him from NJPW as Kenta, when we hear that he got signed and he was jumping to NXT and we're going to see him on a WWE screen. He's a fantastic wrestler, but like you said, injuries have plagued his WWE career. He's been off screen more often than not right now, and so we're not got to see the full extent of his abilities. I think I agree with you. He could go straight into the main roster once he is fully fit again. And he's got some nice feuds there that he could work on, some nice programs he could have. I mean, just off the top of my head, I could imagine a very good match between Itami and Nakamura, which would be billed, knowing WWE, as like the Battle of Japan, as who's the best Japanese wrestler, one of those things. But I could see that being a nice program, but definitely I could see why Itami makes your list, as why he should be jumping straight up.
Just real quick, it is worth noting that just a quick correction first off, Noah, not NGPW. Kent has spent most of his career at Noah, but that's exactly where I was going with this. So like a lot of the Japanese companies do a lot of cross-promotion work, but the only time, for my memory, and I could be wrong, there might have been a singles encounter with them, but the only time the two of them have ever been in a match together was on opposite sides of a tag match. So I kind of feel like they really ought to build that quite hard as well. It'd be a great opportunity for them to give Japanese fans something that they never really got. So, I mean, it is really time, though, with them to fish or cut bait. The boy might not have long left. He might as well get a run at the big time.
No, definitely. My number 5 are a tag team. They've just come back onto the scene after being off for a few months. My number 5 are the Authors of Pain, Akam and Razar, managed by the amazing Paul Ellering. I just think that they've done everything they need to do within NXT right now. They've had the tag team belts. They beat guys like DIY. They beat guys like the Revival, the top teams, and they've always looked as a dominant tag team. They've come back to have that three-way feud. This is going to happen with Sanity and Undisputed Era. You know, that's unfinished business for them. They want to try and reclaim the belts. But I think if they are unsuccessful, they need to make that jump to the main roster. Because I think stick them on SmackDown. You've got guys like the New Day. You've got guys like the Usos they can have a program with. Stick them on the Raw. Maybe, lawsuit permitting, the Authors of Pain are the team that can finally break the Hardys once Jeff is back from his injury. You never know. But for me, I think Paul Ellering and the two guys could have a nice platform. Paul Ellering is a fantastic mouthpiece, and they're ready for that main roster jump, I think. So that's why the Authors of Pain made my number 5.
Personally, maybe just me here, I'm not the biggest fan of the Authors of Pain. Then again, I wasn't a big Legion of Doom fan either. There's something about big guys that no sell that just doesn't speak to me. I can see where you're going, though. I honestly, I'm the other side of the coin on that. It's not that I don't think they should go up. It's that I think they should go up because they've already done everything they can with them. It's interesting you point out the whole three-way feud thing, because for me, I thought that was going into the whole War Games scenario. What I see happening realistically at this stage is Sanity taking British Strong Style in with them, and Undisputed Era taking in Authors of Pain, because the War Games setup was always traditionally 5-on-5, if I'm right, 5-on-5 or 6-on-6. It was one or the other. So I mean, you've got the opportunity to work on that there. That's kind of where I thought it was going at the very least, because I thought that was kind of why they brought the whole War Games thing back anyway.
No, definitely. I've heard it through the grapevine. It's a three-way dance between the Authors of Pain, Undisputed Era, and Sanity. But we'll see what happens at Houston or War Games as being built as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing that match come back after a while off. This is the first time in WWE anyway. But that's by the by. We'll carry on with our list and we'll discuss other stuff afterwards. We're on to our number 4s. I'll kick this one off myself. My number 4 is No Way Jose. For me, he's never going to be a main event guy. But, you know, I can understand people not liking him. You know, the gimmick's a little bit Adam Coley with the, you know, the dancing and the music there. But it seems that he's got a little bit more of a connect with the fans, and it seems that he's more likable. He's generally more over. So I think if you could transition that gimmick that he's got within NXT, the whole dancing, the conga, if you can transition that into the main roster and traveling every week and different audiences seeing him, and they're still liking him, they're still dancing, they're still congaing, then I think he's going to be good in terms of the mid-card, US, Intercontinental, maybe find a tag team partner. But yeah, I like Jose. I like what he does in the ring. He always brings that energy, some fun there, and he does have good matches. So for that reason, No Way Jose makes my number 4.
Yeah, I personally like No Way Jose quite a bit, and I think he could be an interesting addition to the main roster. I think it's always that question, isn't it, if they use him well. He's certainly a character that has the potential to be used very well and have some interesting storylines. So think it would be good to see him up in the main roster. Not made my list, but I can see why you put him on.
Yeah, again, it's solid choice. Definitely a big space in the mid card for the boy. Something fundamentally very enjoyable about him, like, as a person. I kind of feel like he's got the whole kind of Ty Dillinger vibe going on at this stage, where the crowd are just really on board with the gimmick. I think he could probably make quite a good addition to the mid card scene again, which is really what they should be focusing on bolstering at this stage anyway. Like, you've got to make your whole card good through. I can genuinely see a place for him so long as he doesn't end up saddled with a, sort of Jason Jordan, Elias Sampson spot. Like, it's not even that those two guys aren't good enough to possibly be something better. It's just I don't feel like the guys they've brought up for mid card lately they've used very well. But I mean, I suppose that's a gradual process, reforming that anyway.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. So moving on from there, Claire, who made your number 4?
So the central section of my list has a bit of a theme to it. So my number 4 is Ruby Riott. The theme really, I'm going to give it away, is women. I think there's a lot of great women down in NXT. You've got a lot kind of sitting in the back from the Mae Young Classic that you can backfill with. And I think the main roster really needs an injection of good, strong women. You've had Asuka go up. You had, when the women went up last time, like, Becky Lynch and Bayley and Sasha and Charlotte, they were so good down in NXT, and I feel like they've just not transferred that energy to the women's division on the main roster. And I think you need to introduce some more character, some more personality, more women just to have more matches with in general. And I think Ruby Riott would be a great addition to that. Something quite different in her styling that we've not really seen very much of, especially on the main roster in recent years. I like that kind of alternative style. I think she could work really well, have some great matches. She's already shown that she can have great matches. And like I said, I think we could do with moving quite a few women up, and I don't think they would necessarily be missed down in NXT like there was a bit of a vacuum when the last lot went up. Like I said, you've got the Mae Young Classic competitors sitting in the background to fill in. We've seen a lot of them in the Battle Royal. I think she would be a good addition to the main roster, and she goes along with my next couple to bolster the women's division.
No, I can understand that. I do like Ruby Riott myself. I like her demeanor. I like her energy she brings into our matches. I feel that maybe right now there's still a little bit of unfinished business. We don't quite know what the relationship is between her and Nikki Cross and what the whole thing going on there is. So I'd like to see that come to an end, see what, how they close the book on that sort of, are they friends, are they not, is Nikki Cross just messing around because she's part of Sanity and she just likes to bring chaos wherever she goes. I'd like to see them finally end that chapter. But after that, certainly I can see her making a jump up to the main roster. I think she's ready. She has a nice moveset. She's, like I said, she's got a lot of energy. She's something different. It's something that we're not always going to see from the women's division, and it would be an injection of fresh blood into the women's division, which right now we do seem to be sorely needing.
I mean, yeah, Ruby Riott's a fantastic pick. That's the only reason she's not on my list, because she's on yours. Again, trying to keep some variety here. Genuinely think she'd be a great addition. I really feel like they pushed the whole sort of I'm not a diva angle with Paige, and they pushed it with several others. They really need to sort of bolster that kind of impression. Otherwise, it's just going to get stagnant. If you want people to see your division as something that's different to what it used to be, you need to present them with something that is different. That's really it at this stage. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Bayley or Sasha or Charlotte, but they do somewhat represent the old guard. Even if they were different when they first came up to a lot of the others that were around there, they're not that radically different that they scream, look, it's a whole new women's division.
No, I can understand that, and certainly it is nice to see, those women making the jump up, and Asuka coming in as well is certainly an injection of that talent which we do need right now. But Bohan, who made your number 4?
So, I mean, we established precedent last week that tag teams were fine, and you went with one at number 5, so I don't feel so cheaty picking this anymore. Mine's is TMDK, or TM61, as they're now calling them. Unfortunately, they got up to NXT. One of them gets injured, out they go. But these are. I was so excited when I saw that they had signed at NXT because my main experience, my gateway into seeing them was seeing them as part of like a cross promotional match that was had at Wrestle Kingdom. And it was a bunch of Noah guys on one side, a bunch of NJPW guys on the other, and they were part of that. And I saw Nick Miller and Shane Thorne, well, they weren't called that at that stage, but I can't remember for the life of me what their like kayfabe names in Japan were. But the second I saw them, I was like, okay, yeah, you seem quite interesting. And I went and I watched a bunch of their Noah stuff. Those two lads are supremely underrated in the wrestling world. They are absolutely fantastic. They might well be one of the best tag teams I've ever seen in my life. And no one really got to see that because of the injury. I really feel, though, that like when they came in, they were ready to go up again as they were. There's no reason you can't stick those guys on the main roster, bolster your tag division. You've got your opportunity to do what you need. That's kind of it, really. They just need to take the chance on them, put them up and show what they can do, because they do have a little fun side, and you've seen it in some of the sort of backstage promos and some of the vignettes they've done on like WWE.com and stuff. They could be a good foil to New Day, I imagine. They could have a nice sort of face-to-face friendly rivalry kind of thing going on. I just can completely see a spot for them, and I think it's a tragic waste that they are sitting in developmental right now with one of them injured and on the shelf. Just take your chance. You might as well.
No, definitely. It is a shame that one guy got injured. I didn't see a lot of TM61 myself. It did seem they were in for a cup of coffee. Guy gets injured and out they go again. But, hopefully if the if the guy is fit again, they'll bring him back in. They could do something with them again. But I totally understand why they're up there on your list there. That's us at number 4. So at number 3 now. Bohan, who made your number 3?
So along the same vein as Claire's number 4, my number 3 is Mercedes Martinez. I saw Mercedes Martinez before the Mae Young Classic briefly in Shimmer. Can't say I'd seen a lot of her stuff, but I'd seen enough to know that she was quite interesting. She got into a WWE setting, and the dynamic just really worked for her because she was so different to just about any other character that we'd really seen in terms of women's wrestling. Mae Young really pushed this angle of, here are some very different characters. This is not what we usually present you. I feel like Mercedes Martinez, along the same vein as Ruby Riott, would really represent a fundamental change in the guard and the attitude towards women's wrestling on the main roster. I feel like she's genuinely hard enough to really sort of work with people like Asuka to really bring out a kind of stronger side of the women's roster. I see no reason not to use her. She's got talent for days. She's about at the age where it is like, you've got to bring her up and start putting her on there. She's going to have a good long run, because if you wait any longer, you're maybe going to get a shortish run. She's in her 30s at this stage. I'm not saying that 30s is old. I'm just saying that, like, in terms of having a long career, you imagine 10, 12, 15 years, now's the time to get her up there, get her opportunity. Now's the time to really inject just a few sort of radically different women and completely shake up the women's roster. By doing that, you'll give it its own feel, and that's really sorely what it's lacking at this stage.
No, I agree with you there. Definitely, there is something lacking in the women's division, and Mercedes Martinez could definitely bring that to the table. So no, I totally understand why she made your list. I'll go next with my number 3. My number 3 is another women's pick. So my number 3 is Ember Moon. For me, she's done everything in NXT bar win the actual championship. She looks tough, has a nice move set. She has the energy when she comes to the ring. I like her intro music. I like everything about Ember Moon, and the Eclipse is a beautiful finisher. It is nice. It is a little bit of the one that it's kind of over the top, but in a world of Meltzer drivers and flippy shit, you can be forgiven for having an over the top finisher, and the Eclipse is a thing of beauty. And so putting her up on the main roster and seeing her hit that Eclipse on the main roster as well, and if she doesn't win the NXT Women's Championship before she goes up, she won't have been the first one to do it. There have been other women who've gone up before without winning that title, so it's not like it's without precedent. So I can understand if they put her up sooner. For me, I reckon they're probably going to put it on her anyway at TakeOver Houston, the Fatal 4-Way, if they don't give it to Kairi Sane. So if she does go up, I'd like to see her up, and there's some nice programs she can have both on Raw and SmackDown. And like I said, seeing the Eclipse get hit on the main roster would just be a thing of beauty as well.
Well, I agree with you, James, so much that she's my number 2. Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, that what we've kind of been talking about. The women's division really needs an injection of good, talented women with strong personalities and differing personalities, and not this kind of same thing that we're getting at the minute. And like Bohan said, I feel like the women who are going up are losing their kind of identities a little bit. And I really hope that the women, we've all said, if they get up to the main roster the way we want them to, they're allowed to keep the personalities the way they are. They're allowed to do what they're currently doing, because that's what makes them interesting, and that's what makes you want to watch them. And that's why I want to see Ember Moon. She's different. I love watching her matches. She's interesting to watch. I just like her, and I think she would be a really good introduction to the main roster.
I mean, that finish, I remember the first time I saw her hit that finish, and I rewound it, and I watched it again, and I rewound it, and I watched it again, and then I rewound it, and I watched it again. Every time I see that, that is one of my favourite finishers that I've seen in a long time. Again, I'm a big fan of the Meltzer driver. I am a big fan of the flippy shit. I like something that has a bit of presentation to it. And the first time I saw her hit that like weird cartwheel stunner, I was like, oh my God. Like, you've taken something that's so simple and you've added not much to it as well. You've added just enough to make, like, just push it over the edge, make it your own thing. It's an absolute thing of beauty. She's immensely talented. I can totally see space for her when they're ready to move her.
No, definitely. But that being said, we know what Claire's number 2 is, but who is your number 3, Claire?
So it's another woman, and it's Nikki Cross. I just love that. I love that wee Scottish woman so much, and her craziness. And I don't know if it's just because I've seen her in independent stuff, or if it's just I have like an affinity for her. But see, when she does her crazy little things, it just makes me laugh. I love her crazy faces and her clapping when someone gets hurt, and I just love it. And I hate equating men to women, and the kind of, like Bailey is the female John Cena. I don't like that. But what I really do feel that the women's side of the division is missing is your Fergal Devitt's and your Bray Wyatts and your weird, spooky, mental characters. And Nikki just has that in abundance. Dare I say it, maybe even better than the men. She plays that character so well. And I think she could just go into that women's division and be an absolute standout because she's got that personality nailed, and she's fantastic. Her finishers was on my favourite finishers list. I love seeing her pull that fisherman's neck breaker. It's just beautiful to watch. She's so tiny, but yet she's a powerhouse, and I think she would be a really great addition to the women's division for all the same reason that the other women we've already been through tonight would be a good addition.
No, definitely. I like Nikki Cross. Just going to pitch something a little bit here. We thought that we were going to see Bray Wyatt, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he wasn't at TLC. What if instead of it being Bray Wyatt's alter ego, what if Nikki Cross came up and became Sister Abigail?
No. Personally, and this is, I'm a little bit biased when it comes to this, but Nikki Storm is genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met. She was so lovely meeting her in person. Genuinely, I had no idea it was her as well. I was stood at a bar talking to her for about 2 minutes at the garage before I realised who I was actually talking to. I genuinely have nothing but respect for the girl in terms of talent. I would really rather not see her saddled to someone else's gimmick. She deserves the opportunity to carve her own path. She's absolutely fantastic at it. Facial expressions are on point. Her actual work is immense. There's no one that I've ever seen in women's wrestling that I can think of that has a work ethic quite like Nikki Storm. She deserves an opportunity to be her own thing. Plus, we've already came to it that Bray Wyatt's sister Abigail is literally just the whole psycho scenario and she's dead. it's already well within the canon that she's dead. I don't think we ever needed a physical Sister Abigail, and it certainly doesn't need to be somebody with that much promise in their own right.
Oh, fair enough. It was just an idea, but no, I can understand where you're coming from.
I see.
Moving on from
When
there.
you said that, my little voice went, that's an interesting idea. And then Bohan came out with that, and I'm like, I totally agree with him, but I still think it's quite an interesting idea. It would work if they did it, I think. But I can understand. I totally understand where Bohan's coming from with his objection to it as well.
No, definitely, I get it. I get his point. He does make it's a good point, well made. But moving on from that, we are at our number 2. So we'll let you kick this one off, Claire. Who was your number 2?
My number 2, as we have already discussed tonight, was Ember Moon. I mean, she's just fabulous. We've been through her, so I'll let one of you guys take over for your number 2s.
No problem. I'll go my number 2. My number 2 is as he was described by Mauro Ranallo quite eloquently, the bellicose Aleister Black. I love his gimmick. I didn't see much of his Tommy End work in the Independents, but since he's been in NXT, I love his gimmick. I love his ring music. I love his attire. I love his moveset. I love the fact he doesn't need to say anything to get his message across. His Black Mass spinning heel kick is just absolutely beautiful, comes out of nowhere. The sound it makes as it connects with a guy's jaw is just hear that, and it's a smack, and it's audible everywhere. And I just love that. Even the promo, even the one he's got right now with Velveteen Dream, I'm liking the program in that he's still not having to say anything. Everything that he needs to say is being told with his actions and with his facial expressions. He hasn't had to utter a single word about Velveteen Dream and the whole "say my name" thing. I love that. I love that program. I'm liking where it's going. But I think that Aleister Black is ready to jump to the main roster. Doesn't need the NXT belt to be, justified in moving up to the main roster. I think he's ready right now, and I could see him main eventing cards within the main roster for the next few years. He is absolutely sublime, and that's why I want him on the main roster, and that's why he made my number 2.
What you try to do to me, James? He's my number 1. I agree with you. I'll
Terribly
talk
sorry.
about it when my number 1 comes up.
No problem. Bohan, who made your number 2? Or what do you think about my number 2? Sorry.
The only reason, again, that Tommy End didn't make my list was because he was on hers. I looked at it. He was one of the first names I put down. Genuinely, there's something absolutely magnetic about Tommy End as a human being. He's really, really talented. I don't know if you've ever listened to Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana, but it's a real interesting backstory that boy's got, having been raised in a cult. He really managed to make something positive out of that, which is surprising. I find him to be absolutely just a sheer treat to watch. I can see him and Shinsuke Nakamura having the kick each other's fucking skull off match of my life. I genuinely have just this real special place for Tommy, or for Aleister, as they're now calling him. He's so talented. He's so fundamentally hypnotic. He's the perfect counterpoint to Shinsuke Nakamura as well, and that Shinsuke has a very sort of positive charisma about him. He's really fundamentally draws people in a very sort of positive way. He's the other side of that coin. The boy is just immensely talented. He's got big things ahead of him, and I don't see any reason for him to remain in NXT at this stage, because you could shove him and Fergal and a few of the other guys up there into some kind of big long chase where they drag down all the monsters and gradually set up shop and take over. Again, there's a bunch of guys there that can really lend something different, because the crowd aren't reacting to Roman Reigns. The crowd aren't really reacting to these huge men versus huge men matches. Take your opportunity, give them what they want.
No, definitely, I agree with you. Like I said, that's why I made my list. But going on from there, who made your number 2, Bohan?
So my number 2 is another one of these ones that I've picked up from a love of various indie sources. The theme of my list is you don't need to be down there for that long. You probably could have went straight in. And this is very true of Candice LeRae. I really feel like Candice LeRae is technically one of the most proficient women's wrestlers I've ever seen. Again, she's Again, she's up there with the likes of Nikki Storm. I find her to be incredibly talented. She's got a great sort of knowledge of holds. She's got a really good submission based game, as well as having a lot of great stuff going on beyond that. But this is someone who can take an absolute ass kicking as well, which is something that you don't ever really see in the women's roster. Out with Nia Jax beating the shit out of the smaller women, you don't really have like a Tommy Dreamer in the women's division. You don't really have like a Mick Foley. There's not a punching bag there, someone who just takes the fucking beating and then comes back. I watched that girl get fucking super kicked by a Converse that had thumbtacks in it. I have seen her bleed like fuck. PWG were not afraid to go there. She wrestled with Joey Ryan as part of the world's cutest tag team. They had an ongoing feud with the Bucks and Mount Rushmore Pro Wrestling and many other sort of men's teams. Candice LeRae fundamentally can run like no one else. She's got cardio for weeks. She can sell everything fantastically. She would again add a completely separate dimension to anything we've seen. And really, we cheer for the underdogs, right? We do. But Bayley isn't really an underdog in that sense. She maybe goes in being written off, but if you ever sit and watch her matches, she holds her own relatively well. You've never seen someone who takes the arse kicking as a woman and just manages through sheer will to win. That's what Candice LeRae would represent, and I think she'd be a great addition.
No, I agree with you. She would be a good addition to the women's roster. I like her finisher off the top middle rope, Miss LeRae's Wild Rides. Something nice to see as well. And like I said, she has got a solid submission-based game as well. So certainly she would be a nice addition to the women's roster if she has jumped up there. So we've gone through our number twos. We have arrived at our number ones. Since Claire didn't get a chance to discuss her number one, her number two, we'll let her wax eloquently about her number one for the next couple of minutes. So Claire, take it away with your number one.
So my number one, as I've said, was your number two. It's Aleister Black. He's just an absolutely magnetic personality. I loved him on the indies. I loved SDS as a tag team. And with no disrespect to Dante, he is also a fantastic wrestler. But the main draw for me in that tag team was Tommy End or Aleister Black. It's just, there's something about that man that you want to watch. And it is almost the same as Shinsuke. Like, it's that magnetic draw that he brings. There's just some mystique and mystery around him that you want to watch him. You want to see what he's going to do next. The program, as you said, James, that he's having at the minute is really interesting, really enjoying it. I just love everything he does. He's another powerhouse. The kicks he delivers, you actually kind of worried he's going to knock somebody's head off at some point in time, because I think if that was done not so well as he does it and he missed, that could cause some serious damage to somebody. But he's an ultimate professional and always is on point. And I just think he would be a fantastic addition to the main roster. And, you know, again, could be a brilliant counterpart. Same kind of occulty, spooky angle as your Fergos are coming from the demon side and your Brays are coming from the talking to your alter ego's dead sister. I'm not really sure where that's going at the minute, but you know what I mean? That kind of spooky angle that's different. Those angles draw me in. And I think even if he didn't have that, he'd still be an absolute draw. The man is just an absolutely fantastic wrestler, fantastic worker. It's nice seeing him in NXT, but he's another one that didn't need to be there. He could have went straight onto the main roster. He's ready. Let's see him up there. Let's see him doing some stuff. I think he could have a fantastic program. If they book him right, it'll be fabulous.
No, definitely. One more little pitch I was going to mention was obviously you love Aleister Black. You're a massive fan of Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor. Triple threat match between all three.
Oh, it's the stuff of dreams. It would be absolutely beautiful. I would love that so much. I think my head would explode if it actually happened, because like there's a little mini confetti explosion going on in my brain just thinking about it. So if they actually announced it, I think my actual brain might explode out of my skull.
The demon, the god. Oh, That's what you've got there: the demon, the god, and the man.
Oh, I love it. Do
Oh, that is an
Right.
awesome patch. That is sweet. That is an awesome pitch. I can. Now I'm dreaming as well. I've got little images going in my head of that match. That'll be beautiful. But moving on from there, Bohan, who made your number one?
My number one could only ever have been one human being that's down at NXT right now, and that is Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole, baby, and I can't say it without doing it, so like, don't expect it. Adam Cole, baby, has been fundamentally one of the best things about independent wrestling over the last few years. Again, he's been in that scene for so long. He's worked with guys like Kevin Owens. He's worked with the Bucks. He's worked with pretty much anyone of note. He's been fantastic at PWG. He was great at New Japan, although at New Japan he was kind of Bullet Club's like sort of weird cousin that occasionally turned up. And he was absolutely fucking amazing at Ring of Honor. Had great work with Jay Lethal, had great work with just pretty much everyone he's came into contact with, for what it's worth. He's a great character. He's got great charisma. He's fundamentally dislikable. I like him personally, but I can totally see where that fundamental, like, I sort of hate you, you're so fucking arrogant, where does it come from? But he backs it up consistently. He's an amazing talent. He's got a great moveset. He's got a simple gimmick that really sticks, because if we've learned anything from Yes and 10 and No, it's that simple chants like baby are the things that get over hardcore with the crowd. He's a great talent. He's got a lot of places he could go with it. There's no reason he couldn't come up to the main roster, just kind of adopt the club as his two henchmen. There's plenty of things you could do with him, but he's so fundamentally talented and he's been so over for so long. Again, he's another one that brought into NXT, and I can see what they're doing with him, and I can see why they're using him. But I don't see any reason not to send him up to the main roster and let Red Dragon have their moment together that they've been dreaming of for years. He's got the ability to work. He's got the ability to get himself over. There's no reason that you couldn't put him in the ring with a bunch of the guys that you've brought up recently that everyone's dying to see him work with, some of the ones that he hasn't gotten near. He's a great character. He's got an almost sort of faction ready, I suppose, is what you would say about Adam Cole, because anytime he goes somewhere, he comes in as the slimy little arrogant fuck that suddenly turns up with three mates and you get the shit kicked out of you. That's his gimmick. It's worked for him everywhere he's went. He can get the job done on his own when he needs to. He just doesn't choose to. He's a great character. There's a lot can be done with him. I see no reason for Adam Cole to remain in NXT for too long. I see more reason to send him up and to let Red Dragon do their thing.
No, I can understand that. I mean, I didn't put Adam Cole on my list because I knew you would probably have him on yours, but as well as that, I also feel that there needs to be more of Adam Cole on NXT right now. Yes, he's ready for the main roster. Yes, he's had a fantastic career in the independent scene, but this is a chance for Adam Cole and Red Dragon not to so much hone their skills, but just to get ready for a WWE universe and the way of running in the WWE. Because you know what they're like. They want to iron out the bad habits that you've learned on the independents. They want you to work in a WWE style. And if you spent so long in the independent scene, then sometimes you need that time in the developmental to get ready for a WWE style of wrestling that you might not have the experience of wrestling that type of match or with those types of opponents. So I can see why he's down there, and it's to give him more exposure so that when he finally does come to the main roster, people are ready for him, because more and more people are watching NXT, more and more people are tuning in to NXT to see these guys getting ready for main roster. It is like it's still a developmental process, but it's having fantastic matches. There is the word going out that you need to watch NXT because these guys are the future of WWE. And Adam Cole, Red Dragon, the guys are all ready to go up to the main roster are there just to help increase the exposure of NXT, to get a wider audience, to get people watching the show so that you can finally see that this is where the future of the company is going. So
and I don't disagree with
I
you.
Understand why.
I completely understand the logic by why they've put him there and why he's staying there. but I don't feel like he needs it. I feel like Adam Cole is a character that if you sit him anywhere, Baby is a character that if you sit him anywhere long enough, he'll get himself over. I've seen it. Also, you kept mispronouncing his name. Who is this Adam Cole you were speaking of? I only recognise Adam Cole, Baby.
Well, that's entirely up to you. But, I'm going to pronounce it how I want to pronounce it. We're talking semantics. Let's just leave it at that. But moving on from Adam Cole, Baby, as Mr. Bohan has to have it pronounced as. My number one is a guy who's currently on his second run in WWE, specifically NXT. Right now, he's on his second run with the company as a whole. He's the current NXT champion. It is the Drew McIntyre, Drew Galloway, as he was known in the independent scene. For me, that guy has come on leaps and bounds. He was hailed as the chosen one in his first run within the WWE. Was there at a very young age. The developmental scene wasn't really as well-oiled as it is right now, so maybe they put him in too early. Put the weight of being the chosen one, Vince McMahon's successor in terms of who he wanted as the helm, who he wanted as the face of the company. Maybe that put a chip on his shoulder that he wasn't quite ready for. Let him go, and then he went to the independent scene, found his niche, found his character, found who he was, came on leaps and bounds, looks amazing, came back to WWE as second chance, joined NXT, didn't even have to. He's fully ready for the main roster. He knows the grind. He knows what it's like to be a main roster wrestler. So I can totally understand that, he's fully ready for that. I'm liking the programs he's got right now, just the program he had with Roddy, the program he had with Bobby Roode, the program he's having with Andrade right now, in which he's saying that, I'll give you a title fight, but you have to come and ask for it. I'm liking that. I'm liking the fact that he'll fight anybody. If you ask for a title fight, he'll give it that to you. I'm liking that gimmick he's got right now. He's a fighting Scotsman, if you will. So yeah, definitely Drew McIntyre for me is my number one. I'm ready to see him back on the main roster and to run roughshod over the WWE again.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see why Drew would make your list. He did fantastically well for himself on the indies. He really developed himself. He worked to get back there and to be taken more seriously. And I just hope that when he does make that jump to the main roster, they do treat him as seriously as he deserves, because he is fantastic. And I think he would be a good addition to the main roster. So I can see why he made your number one.
Can completely understand why he's on your list. The only point for me is I think the reason they've got him down at NXT like this for a longer period this time is because they're trying to do it right. I mean, it's worth noting that he's talked about it in podcasts. He was in FCW for 2 weeks and they called him up. 2 weeks he spent in developmental the last time and they called him straight up. It's not as if he's not a guy that's ready to work, and it's not as if he was a guy who couldn't get himself over. I just don't think they knew quite what to do with him. It seems like at least Developmental's creative has got a clearer path for him this time. They know what they need to do with him. He's only down there right now to change his perception before they send him up to the main roster. I think they're just trying to avoid him becoming a mid-carder again here, which makes perfect sense. He's got main event written all over him. He can be there for a long period of time. That's the only reason he's still in NXT right now. It's because they're hoping that when they come to it, they'll be able to just turn around and go, there you go. He's perfect. He's ready. Take him.
No, definitely. And hopefully people can forget 3MB, because you know Smarks are going to want to start chanting 3MB. Once all three guys are on the main roster, it's going to happen, unfortunately, because that was a failed experiment. But, it is what it is. So hopefully we'll get to see that, and the Smarks won't start chanting 3MB at Drew McIntyre, because
all you need to do is shut that up.
That's what Smarks will do.
Literally, all you need to do to shut that up is stick the three of them in the ring together and have Drew behead the other two. That's literally it. You just need to actually physically have him put that demon to rest, and that's it.
No, exactly. And if they do that, that would be great. That would be an interesting match, Heath versus Jinder versus Drew, and it'll be fun to see that happen. A reunion match, if you will. But that being said, we've broken down our top 5 NXT draft picks from our 5s to our 1s. Moving on from there, we were off the air for a few weeks just because of unforeseen circumstances. So we're back now. We have missed a couple of pay-per-views to review and to look back on. So whilst we were off air, Hell in a Cell, well as TLC, Hell in a Cell was the first one that was on the air, first one that viewed. And for me, I enjoyed it. What did you guys think of Hell in a Cell?
I mean, personally, it was pretty decent. I feel like my memory from it coming out was better than I expected. To be completely honest, thought the two Hell in a Cell matches were fantastic. Use of the cage in the tag match, beautiful. So much use of the cage, really inventive, great to see. Made a match I wasn't really looking forward to because we've had it so many times. Actually, really interesting and really good. Second one, the finisher. Shane, well done. Like, seriously, he turned up. I know what I said about McMahon's in the ring, and I still kind of stand by that, but Shane did have a really good match. Everything else in the middle, I think it kind of started to slip a little bit in the midsection of the card, but overall, I thought it was a really decent pay-per-view.
Bohan, what do you think?
So I'm sure we're going to go into the kind of finite details. I'm going to try and keep a brief overview here. I mean, it was a weird card. Like, there were some really good matches on this card overall. And again, tag match, fantastic. Main event, great. There was a lot of, well, I don't want to say a lot. It was spaced by shite. Like, it was really spaced by filler and by some not really great matches. So it was a weird one. Like, it wasn't like it was overall a terrible pay-per-view, but there were a couple on here that you were just kind of looking at going, why the fuck did you bother? Like, why even bother booking it? Like, it seemed very much like half this card was a rush job in terms of trying to book something that was going to work for it. Some of this worked, some of it didn't. Overall, though, wasn't exactly a bad show. We've seen worse this year, so like I was willing to take it on the chin.
No, I can understand that. So, like I said, we'll go into some of the finite detail. I didn't watch the pre-show, so we'll skip that one because nobody cares. The first match of the night was the first Hell in a Cell match. Was the Usos against the New Day for the Tag Team Championships. Like I said, it was very inventive. I enjoyed the use of the cage, using the kendo sticks to wedge him up against it to stop him from getting a 3. That was a nice use of the weapons, a nice use of the cage. There was, the handcuffs to the cage and handcuffing to yourself, and Xavier Woods with his headbutts at the end before the finish. It was a nice match, and like you said, there was some parts of it that you watched and you said, "Holy shit!" It was a really good tag team match. It felt like every time the Usos and the New Day would fight, they would take things up a notch, and I was worried that when you went into this from the street fight, that they wouldn't be able to jump it up a notch, and they did. They went further than they did in the street fight. It was a good match. It was a good way to end it. I was a little disappointed that the New Day didn't keep the belts. I was hoping that they would keep those belts and close that chapter there for a defense, but they decided to go the opposite way and give the New Day the Usos the belts and close the chapter that way, and state that whilst the Usos have got them, the New Day can't have a title against a title match anymore. But I would like to have seen them defend it successfully. So I was a little disappointed in the result, but the content of the match was sublime.
Yeah, that's the exact same as me. The only thing that I was ever so slightly disappointed about was the Usos keeping the belts. They put on a fantastic match, and so belts, okay, fine. But I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't a New Day. But everything else, apart from that, I just thought was fantastic. Like I said, I wasn't particularly interested in this. I've lost count of how many times I've seen them fight. So I was kind of going into this a bit, okay. But they really did turn it up, and it was really great to watch. And it was so fresh and inventive, some of the stuff they were doing, that it made it so interesting to watch. And I think that was kind of part of the problem with the rest of the card. You put this on as your first match, and it was so interesting and so dynamic that you're kind of setting the rest of the card up to fail at that point, when you've had something that dramatic at the start. But really enjoyed it. It was a really good match.
I thought this was genuinely, like, pretty much for me personally, this was match of the night. I don't really feel like that's unreasonable to say. This for me was match of the night because they did so much in that cage without ever fucking leaving it as well. So much in that cage that I hadn't seen before in cell matches. So many different little spots, so many nice little additions. They went really at it as well. Like they beat the piss out of each other. They went at that a lot harder than I expected. I turned to her towards the end of the match and said something that I don't say very often. I said, it doesn't really matter who wins these belts anymore. And it didn't at that stage for me personally, because honestly, my problem with the Usos for a long time has been when I see them with those belts on, I don't really consider it credible. They've done a lot to change my perception of that, and at this point, I don't think I'll ever feel that way again. I thought it was a great match. They worked fantastically together. They knew each other well enough to put on like sort of some really strange and interesting spots. You had interference from the outside of the cage without ever coming into it. Everything worked. Everything was great. The finish was great. I didn't have a problem with the Usos walking away with those belts because genuinely, that was a war of attrition. It was the perfect way to close off that feud after you've worked for that length of time. It was old school booking, to be honest. It was a feud that just built and built and built over time, and it went into that territory, and that was the finish. It was one of those rare situations where I genuinely felt like, yeah, this is what they used to use Hell in a Cell for. It used to be the big sort of, this is it, this is it. Once we're done with this, we're done with each other. It's over. And it felt like that. It had that gravitas. It had all of those great spots with weapons. It had unique offense. It just the dynamic between those two teams played off so well that I don't think anything ever could have followed this. And that was the story of this show to some extent. But oh my God, what a match.
It even had cowbell. There was a cowbell, and it was fucking brilliant.
And the destruction of multiple trombones. Again, things I've never seen in the cell. Well done, lads. Well done.
Definitely. Like I said, nothing really could follow it, but following it on was Randy Orton beating Rusev. No really surprise there. I don't know why they need Randy Orton. I don't know why Randy Orton needs to beat the guy. Do we really need to bury Rusev any further? At this point, he's so far in a grave that Satan himself is rubbing his hands. You can't really bury Rusev any deeper than he already is, and just losing to Randy Orton again doesn't really mean anything. It was an okay match, but once again, there's no real point to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think, I personally think if he's not already thinking about it, Rusev should be the next one to ask to leave, because they're really not using him to his full ability. He is a brilliant worker, and I think he deserves to be treated a lot better. I mean, it was literally, let's pull Rusev out to bury him under Randy for no reason. Hey. And it was, like you said, it was an all right match, but A, it wasn't a surprise that he lost, and B, it just felt thrown together for the sake of it, and I kind of had lost interest, to be honest, and it had to follow that amazing cage match, so it was kind of always up against it as a match, whichever match it was going to be, but then they put these two on, and you're just kind of like, why? I'm not really that interested. So it was an all right wrestling match, but there was no surprise, and it definitely wasn't a standout on the card, I don't think.
Again, though, I think that's why this was in that spot for what it's worth. You were going to have to follow that match with something. So I think they just kind of went, well, you might as well kill time because it doesn't matter. Crowd are going to be burnt out regardless, so let's just chuck something on there that it doesn't matter if it flops, which isn't a good attitude to have towards booking a card, but at the same time, I kind of get it. This match for me was nothing. Like, the bell rang and I knew how it was going to finish. As soon as it started, I'm just looking at them going, oh, Jesus Christ, do we really have to repeat this again? Like, is there a reason for us doing this to Rusev again? There's a boy that's got talent and you're just fucking, yeah, just basically just pulling out the excavator every time he's in the fucking ring at this stage. I didn't really see the point in this match being ran much enjoyment out of it. It was dull. I knew how it was going to finish. I mean, I'm not saying it was a bad match. It was just a fucking boring match. And that's kind of the problem, really. On a card like this, where you've got two big stip matches and you've got a lot going on, you need to hit hard or like it just falls flat. And the energy kind of went out of the crowd around this point. Like, it just, they seemed to stop giving a fuck. And I don't blame them. I was so fucking bored of this by about like the 5th minute. And I was just like, okay, just wrap it. Come on. Let's get on with the card.
No, I can understand where you come from. Like I said, let's move it on. Moving on from that, the next match was Baron Corbin against AJ Styles and late entry Ty Dillinger. He got added the night of the pay-per-view and a triple threat match for the United States Championship. Ty Dillinger came out on top. Ty Dillinger lost to Baron Corbin, and Baron Corbin takes away the belt, meaning AJ Styles wasn't involved, so it sets up a nice program there. But I wasn't expecting Baron Corbin to come out of the win. I was actually quite surprised that it did seem that they were bringing out the shovel Baron Corbin, and now they've gone, okay, kid, here's the ball, go run with it, see what you can do. And I like Baron Corbin. I like his arrogance. I like the fact that he has that whole, I don't respect anybody in the locker room. I don't care that you were in the Indies for years. I'm doing this my way. My way is not your way. I don't give a crap if it's not your way. It works for me. And I like his attitude. I like the whole demeanor. I've kind of come around a little bit to him. So if he runs with it and he runs with it well, fair play to the kid. It was an okay match. Just want to see what Baron Corbin does with that belt.
It was a nice bounce from what had came before it. I actually really did enjoy this match. AJ versus Corbin wasn't something I was that bothered about seeing, but the addition of Ty Dillinger really did actually drag me in for what it was worth. I was quite happy with that. It was a very enjoyable match. Everyone had great spots. There was really good interaction between Ty Dillinger and AJ as well. Like that showed flashes for the boy of something that they don't really give him the opportunity to be yet. I think he's capable. He's got a good career ahead of him if he can keep working at the rate he's working. The three of them had a really interesting match. It was a bit of an odd finish, bit of a screwy finish, but like, I mean, other than that, there's not really a lot else to say. It was just quite an enjoyable match. It was well put together. It was a good story told start to finish. Just the ending kind of caught me by surprise, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, definitely this match picked up from the last one. It was a really, I thought, quite well balanced triple threat match. Everyone kind of got their stuff in, managed to get seen. Like yourself, I was a bit surprised at Baron Corbin getting it. I'm not mad at it, but it did take me a little by surprise. But I thought it was a really enjoyable match. You know, that stuff where Corbin was out the ring and it was Dillinger and AJ. They had some really good stuff going. And it just really was quite interesting. And I think the late entrance from Ty Dillinger did kind of give this match a nice dynamic, made it a bit more interesting. You know, the breakups of the pins were good. Just quite a solid match, actually. And it did pick up a bit from the last match, which, you know, good on those guys for bringing the pay-per-view back up on an upward slant.
Definitely. I did enjoy, like I said, I enjoyed it as well. Like I said, it's an interesting dynamic to see what Baron's going to do with that title. Time will tell. The next match on the card, Charlotte Flair up against Natalya for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair won the match via disqualification after Natalya attacked her with a chair on her injured knee. Means that while Charlotte wins the match, Natalya keeps the belt due to champion's advantage. Wasn't expecting that. If I'm honest, I was expecting Natalya to go after the knee, beat it all down. Charlotte comes out with a win, but due to a busted up knee, gives Carmella a chance to cash in the briefcase. I was expecting that. Was not expecting the disqualification for Natalya. I like where they're taking that. It gives her more of that whole cowardly heel. She does what she needs to do to keep her belt. So I like that dynamic. I like Natalya's heel work, and it is nice to see them having a bit more faith in Natalya and letting her keep that title for a little bit longer. So I enjoyed the match. Wasn't expecting the finish, but I am glad they're having a bit more faith in Natalya and seeing where she wants to go with that belt.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad they're giving a bit more face to Natalia. I think she is definitely one of the women on the roster who really deserves it. And I think this kind of stepped up her heel game a little bit, which I think was something she needed to do. If she was going to go heel, she really did have to step it up. It was good ring work, going for the knee, staying on the knee. I like the screw finish. If going to, like I said, going to be a heel, be an all-out heel, just go for it. A little bit surprised by the finish. I think I said this previously on the last one. I did think they were going to have Golden Girl Charlotte come back and take that belt, but I'm quite happy to see Natalia keep it, and it was quite an interesting match.
It really feels like, for me personally, it's shades of Uncle Owen. That's why I kicked your leg from under your leg, Brett. Like, honestly, if you're gonna do something with her, she's got the appreciation for Owen's body of work. She's someone who understands how to be a heel. She gets what makes a good heel. She gets what makes quite an enjoyable heel. I see no reason to let her do it. I again think Natalia is an immense talent. I think that she's somebody who doesn't really get utilised in a way that she should. I think part of that's because of her association with the old regime and her having been part of what used to go. I think they're so desperate to distance themselves from it without actually distancing themselves from it that certain characters have suffered somewhat because of it. It's good to see her get the opportunity she deserves. She's got it in her to work it. It was a good match. Ended perfectly appropriately for what it was. I mean, I see no reason for her not to continue screwy antics to hold the belt so long as she's doing them herself. That's my only pet peeve when it comes to that kind of stuff. If you're gonna do the dirty and if you're gonna get like a DQ, I retain my belt, or if you're gonna get a I'm not actually gonna face you directly thing, do it yourself. It lends a lot more credibility to you if you're willing to do it in and of yourself. There are only some people who can pull off the whole getting their cronies come down to do their work thing. And for a lot of people, unless you're a solid enough talent that you can get the job done on your own, it doesn't really seem to work. It lends a bit of strength to the character that she's willing to go there to keep the belt. So yeah.
No, definitely. Like I said, it's nice to see the WWE giving some face to Natalia and letting her run with it. Next match on the night saw Jinder Mahal beat Shinsuke Nakamura and keep the WWE Championship.
What are you talking about? This was just a big black screen at empty space. I don't remember a match here.
Yeah, I don't think your version of the network played that match back, because surely they wouldn't have Jinder Mahal keep the belt with the exact same finish that every fucking match that he's had so far has had, pretty much. Surely not.
I know, that's why, just a sigh. Just a big fat fucking sigh. Can we just be done? Can
At this point, he's rapidly approaching Great Khali territory. He is. He's wandering into that zone because it's just the same fucking thing every time, and it's dull, and it seems to be being done for cynical reasons. And it's funny because their subscriber numbers in India have actually went down since he had the belt. But I mean, then again, you're pretending a Canadian boy's Indian just because his parents were Indian and he's brown. So I mean, there's a real possibility that that market sees right through that ploy and goes, "We don't give a shit." It's just not working for anyone. Can we just agree to finish it?
It does seem that he's overstayed his welcome in the main event scene. Put him back down to the mid card. You know, I'd happily see him in the mid card. I don't see him as a main eventer. He's not a main event spectacle. He hasn't got the moveset of a main eventer. He hasn't got the gravitas with the crowd. He's not getting heel heat. He's getting X-Pac heat. He's getting fuck off, we don't want you anymore heat. He's getting legitimate, we don't care about you heat. And when you get that heat, then the WWE need to be listening to that, not going, oh, they're booing him. They must not like him as a heel. No, we're booing him because we don't like him, period. Not because he's a heel or a babyface, but period. He's getting X-Pac heat. At which point, when you get X-Pac heat, you need to fuck off.
Eva Marie heat. That's what he's getting. It's not. It's one of those situations that I think we've talked about before, where as a crowd, we need to learn that when we don't like someone in that respect, we need to just shut up. We need to be quiet and not give any reaction, so they know that's the way we don't like them. Because WWE hear boos and think, Great heel. It's the same with Roman Reigns. Hear boos. Great heel. No. Hear boos. Don't want to see them. So we as a crowd, I think, when it comes to people like that, need to learn in the WWE universe to be quiet. Because it's the only way they're ever going to figure out that we're sick of fucking seeing them. We're not enjoying them. It's not heel heat. It's not boo, bad heel, going to have a good match though, still like them. No, it's we want them off the fucking screen. We want them out the ring. We can't be bothered. Kind of with you. Wouldn't really mind if he was in the mid card. But I mean, I just can't. Like, who made this booking decision? I'm so bored of his matches, and then to throw Shinsuke to him and have him fucking lose. I mean, it just absolutely boggled my mind. I was so angry after this match.
Allow me to present something possibly constructive, though, as a wee tangent here. I really feel like what they need to do with Jinder Mahal is what you do with a guy who has a limited moveset, and that's get him involved in some form of tag team and get him something to do where his weaknesses don't show immediately and everyone doesn't see exactly how the trick is done as it's going on. There's no reason you couldn't have him and the Singh brothers be the Maharaja and the worthless peons for the next like fucking 6 months. Have each of the Singh brothers sort of taking alternate weeks at helping them defend the tag belts, have whichever one of them is go in and do a whole scrappy do routine, get the shit beat out of them, and then when everybody's tired, just have the big cunt come in, drop them, retain the belts. And I think it would work better if you put him along with someone who could do the bulk of the work for him and do the unique stuff that he can't do. It's not as if there's not a place for him, and it's not as if there's not something you can do with him. But he's weakened that belt to the point where it wasn't even like sort of second from the top of that card. It was in the middle of the card. The fucking world title was a mid-card match. That's what he's done to it. So, I mean, you might as well just accept the shortcomings, do the best job you can with him, because I don't think he's a bad worker per se. I just don't think he's good enough to be where he is. That's pretty much it, you know?
Yeah, and like we said, we're all just done with Jinder. So less we speak about it, the better. Next match was Bobby Roode up against Dolph Ziggler. I enjoyed this match. I'm liking the Dolph Ziggler right now. The whole, you don't need an entrance music as long as you can prove what you're doing in the ring. And I like that. I like the feud he's got with Bobby Roode. I like the shenanigans that went on in there. It was, Dolph Ziggler was trying to pull the tights, so Bobby Roode went, okay, then I'll play you your own game. And I like that. I like the fact that, it enables that feud to go on. It enables them to have a program. I like those two wrestling together. I like Bobby Roode. I like Dolph Ziggler. I like that match. It was interesting. It had a nice feel to it. I'm looking forward to seeing where that program goes.
For me, this fell a bit flat. Now, I know it's early in the program and they're still working on what they're doing and stuff, but for me, the problem with this was you had two very capable guys who put on what felt like a very phoned-in performance for me. I didn't feel like either of them did a quarter of what they're capable of. It just kind of felt like it was intended to be filler, and this was, like I said ahead of time, that this could only really go one of two ways, and I hoped it would go the other. For me, this was just, it's not even like it was, again, a bad match. It wasn't the quality that both of these guys are capable of. It didn't have everything in it that it could have had to make it something special. It's best forgotten for me. I just hope the feud goes somewhere better.
Claire, what did you think of it?
I'm kind of with Bohan. I don't feel like this was the best of the two of them that we saw. Thought it was a pretty decent match. Did enjoy it. I liked Ziggler's coming out, stopping his entrance music. That was nice. But I don't think we've seen the best match that these two guys could have had together.
No, I agree with you there. Like I said, I enjoyed it, but like you said, it did that put my teeth in. It does need to have something more. They need to, take that further, and there's a lot more from them. That brings us to the main event of the evening. Kevin Owens defeated Shane McMahon in what can only be described as a very spookily predicted finish from Tom Gherkin when he was on the show last with us. Predicted that finish to the T. He said that Sami Zayn would come out and help Kevin Owens win the match. And that is exactly what happened. It was a very strange call, a very weird coincidence, and it was something that I was watching live. And as it happened, and it replays, and you see Sami Zayn pull Kevin Owens, I lost my shit, screaming out, "I fucking called that! We fucking called that!" And it was I loved the match from start to the finish, which we fucking well called.
It was a cumulative effort, though, because he was the one that called Sami coming out initially. I called Sami being involved in the finish and Shane dropping through an empty table. So, I mean, for what it's worth, together we got the finish of that. It was a great match. It was really enjoyable. It's somewhere different for Sami Zayn to go. Hopefully this will benefit him. We'll see what they do with it long term, but at least he gets to be with his buddy. And they're two guys that I quite like, so it's nice to see them quite happy and getting to work together. Like, it must be nice being able to turn up to work and just smile at your best friend and being like, "Come on, pal, let's go and do what we need to do." It's a nice dynamic between the two of them as personalities. They work really well together. Again, there's no reason for this not to work, but the story of this match, I wrote some brief notes earlier, just pretty much a couple of words about each of these matches so that I knew where I was going to go and how I was going to talk about it. For this, I had 2 words as a review for this match, and it was suicide attempt. Shane McMahon, fucking giant melon-sized balls on the boy at the very least, but that was, you didn't need to take that bump. I'd rather never see you do it again. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a great spectacle, but I felt the same way I felt when I saw Mick Foley took that bump. It was one of those ones where I just looked at it and I went, "Oh God, please tell me he's not dead." Like, it was a great spectacle. It just doesn't need to be done again. You've done what you can do. It was a good match though, and it did involve Kevin Owens just kind of beating the piss out of him. It was everything I wanted it to be, really.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. There was a couple of real holy shit moments before Shane jumped off. One of them was seeing Kevin Owens cannonball Shane through a table that was propped up against the cell. That, for me, was a real holy shit moment. And there was a few of those through that match. And I just had to mention that one because it was one of those ones, watching it happen, I was like, he's not going to do that. Oh, fuck, he's done that. Holy crap.
Yeah, no, like I said in my kind of summary of the whole card, the 2 cage matches were fantastic. Shane really stepped it up in this match. I mean, good on him. It looked like a really strong, interesting, well-told wrestling match. And on the side of predictions, after the fall, I was watching the card and I rhymed off all of Shane's injuries, looked them up, got them all right. Not as good a prediction as predicting the end of the match, but I still managed to do it. We were the same. We saw the end of that match and we're sitting going, "Oh my God, no way, it's happening. Just fabulous match. Really enjoyed it. Great top off to the whole card. Really pulled it back up there. It did, I feel like there were peaks and troughs in this. I enjoyed most of the matches, but I mean, that really put a sealed stamp on that as a decent card, which I think we've been struggling to get in pay-per-views recently. And the 2 of them worked fantastically together. Having Sami come out at the end, brilliant. Really, really enjoyed it.
No, definitely. And all in all, it was better than we thought it would be. Moving on from there, after Hell in a Cell came the Raw branded pay-per-view TLC. It was meant to be the Shield reunion going up against the Miz and the Bar and Kane and Braun Strowman in a 5-on-3 TLC match. Unfortunately, due to viral infections, Roman Reigns couldn't compete. Neither could Bray Wyatt, and so AJ Styles jumps in at the last moment, goes up against Finn Balor, and Kurt Angle makes his in-ring WWE debut, a re-debut for the first time in 11 years, taking the place of Roman Reigns. What did you guys think, both of the changes to the card and the fact that Kurt Angle made a return to the ring?
I actually thought that this card benefited greatly from the illnesses on the roster. I actually think the substitutions that were made helped out quite a lot. And again, this was another really decent pay-per-view. They've been surprising me a wee bit lately with this. I really enjoyed, I think, almost everything on this. I was a little bit worried seeing Kurt come back. I mean, obviously he's been cleared to wrestle, but I think when you've got somebody that you really like and you know their history and you know there's injuries underlying there, and you know they've had issues in the past, I personally, and I think a lot of people were probably a little bit concerned about how much he was going to do, and was he going to put himself in maybe a little bit of a position that he shouldn't be in, especially with it being a TLC match. But I think he did really well. I really enjoyed seeing him again. I think, he did the right thing, kind of going away, coming back, doing the Brocky Lesnar move, as I'm now going to call it. So yeah, no, I quite enjoyed seeing him come back, and I thought that he was a decent addition to that match, having to have somebody sub in for Roman. I mean, you really could have had MD sub in for Roman, and I was going to enjoy it more. So, I mean, might as well have Kurt Angle.
Bohan, what do you think?
Sorry, overall, good card again. Worked very well. There wasn't a lot of sort of slow spots on this. Genuinely, yeah, illness helped massively. Illness gave us match of the night, probably second best match of the year, and also gave us that wonderful multi-man match. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those ones where they may have took with one hand, but they certainly fucking gave with the other. Honestly, this was one of the better pay-per-views that there's been all year. Genuinely really enjoyed this. We've got a couple of kind of nitpicks to have once we get into it, but I mean, for the most part, there wasn't really anything about this I didn't enjoy. And I'll get this out of the way right now so that when we're talking about the main event, I don't feel I need to labour this point. But Kurt Angle turning up looking like their dad had turned up to pick them up from fitness practice or something, just genuinely made my night. She pissed herself at that, him in the fucking tactical vest and everything. It reminded me of NCIS Miami, is it? The one with the little woman who's in charge. When she turns up at the crime scenes with the tactical vest on, there was something that just kind of rang like that for me. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Oh no, definitely was it. Billy Kirkwood put up a brilliant one. It was like when your dad says he's going to come out with you to the caddy.
Yeah, no, I'd seen that post before I actually seen it, so I'd seen him in the tactical vest, but it was watching it live. I just couldn't help myself. I was buckled for quite some time.
Oh no, definitely. It was an interesting thing. But we'll go through the card. Pre-show, again, I didn't watch. Sasha Banks defeated Alicia Fox by submission. Okay.
Emotional fucking roller coaster. I'm so gutted I missed that.
It lasted 11 minutes, so it must have been a sublime match, but I didn't get a chance to see it.
Hang on, that went on for 11 minutes and those fans didn't fucking break that ring down themselves? Jesus Christ.
I know. But the first match on the card was Asuka making her main roster debut against Emma. It was a good match. It was a nice way to introduce Asuka to the main roster. They had some nice vignettes coming before her debut at TLC, so it was a nice way to finally fully introduce her and to show the main roster crowd what Asuka's all about. And I really did enjoy the fact that they kept her whole undefeated streak on going and mentioning it and making it a big part of who she is. So it was nice that they harkened back to her NXT days, so I'm glad to see that. And she kept her undefeated streak going by beating Emma with the Asuka lock. And whilst it was just shy of 10 minutes, it was still an enjoyable match.
Yeah, no, I actually quite enjoyed this match. And I actually like that she didn't completely squash Emma. Like, Emma did get in there a little bit and got to show off some stuff. I'm glad Asuka won. I think it was a good debut, and I really did enjoy the match.
It's not that I didn't enjoy the match, but personally for me, this felt like a mismatch. I think they could have put someone in with a higher work rate. I'm wondering if Emma was already in negotiations, because obviously with her having secured a release now, that's kind of slotted a couple of puzzle pieces into place. It wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. It just felt like you could have probably put someone with a higher work rate in there with Asuka and got something a bit more, oh, holy shit. This is your first introduction to her. And it's not that she didn't come off well. It's just that I feel like she could have come off better if you put her in there with someone who would have worked higher, And that's not a knock on Emma. I'm wondering if she knew she was going to leave by that stage, really, looking back on it, because it's not really reflective of her ability and work as a whole, but it just kind of fell flat on the night for me. Not to say it was a bad match, just again, it was capable of better, and I really feel like they should have given them that, because that first match can really make or break people's opinions of someone.
No, I can understand. Just going to go off topic in terms of off the matches. 2 points. Was anybody else a little bit not annoyed, but a little bit confused as to the fact that it's a TLC pay-per-view, but only one match was a gimmick match?
I said this the entire way through the pay-per-view. I'm like, why is it like this is really weird? There's no other matches with any stipulations or anything like that. This is a TLC pay-per-view. Why are there not more stipulation matches? Like, this is your time to have a stipulation match, and we're not having them. I was making that point the entire way through the pay-per-view.
I kind of said towards the end of it, maybe it's time to just do away with the whole theme pay-per-views thing. I mean, as nice as it was at one stage being guaranteed at least a Hell in a Cell match or a TLC match a year, you would probably get these in other places anyway. It just feels like they now have to reserve them for these. I don't really think the whole theme pay-per-view thing's necessary. Just start bringing back some old pay-per-view names, give them new names. I don't care what you do, but we don't really need to have this glut of themed pay-per-views at the end of the year. It's only ever worked with a couple. The Royal Rumble works because it's totally unique. Survivor Series works because it's been forced down our throats for long enough. You know, like these things work because they work independently. You can't just slap a gimmick onto a pay-per-view and hope that it's going to be good. It would probably benefit them a lot more booking wise if they didn't hamstring themselves like this and they could book what's relevant to the feud when they felt like it.
Sure. The other point I'll get to when we go down further through the card, but I'll just mention. I thought I'd mention that one to begin with. But next match was a cruiserweight tag match in which Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann defeated Gentleman Jack Gallagher and the Brian Kendrick. It was all right for a tag team cruiserweight match. There was, it didn't really feel like this progressed the feud anyway. It was a solid cruiserweight match, but to me, it just didn't. I didn't have that connect that I had previously to this feud. The whole Jack turning a heel, I like that heel turn. It was a nice break from what we've been seeing from him. But this match didn't feel like it was progressing anywhere or going anywhere further. It just felt like it was a stopgap for these two teams, this group of four guys. I would like to have seen a bit more from them or a little bit of way of progressing this feud. To me, it felt a little bit meh. I enjoyed the match, but it's me on any real way to progress that feud any further.
The thing is, for us at this point, we don't really watch 205 Live anymore. There was a point where we were watching it every week. We've not watched it for a good while now. Realistically, I watch these matches in the same context that I used to watch New Japan and Noah, where I didn't have a great handle on some of the storyline stuff and the finer bits of the promos, so I was watching it in its own right as a match. And for me, as a fan of flippy shit, I thought this was a great match. I really enjoyed how it was put together. The spots were great and everything. So with the storyline context, I felt like it was a really, really great match. You had some great spots in there. Cedric Alexander never fails to entertain with his level of athleticism. Him and Rich Swann make quite a good pairing. I don't really necessarily quite yet feel the pairing of Jack and Brian Kendrick. I suppose if I see it a bit more, it'll maybe be there. Although they do have kind of similar, like sort of brawler styles, I suppose. I just really thoroughly enjoyed the match for what it was. I thought it was a fantastic match. I really felt like these two teams worked quite well together. I can understand your complaints about it, though. If you're talking in storyline, I can only comment on the quality of it as a match, realistically, at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, very much the same. Like Bohan says, we've not really been watching 205 Live, and I don't really know that I have much to say about the match. I think simply because I probably wasn't all that invested in it. Technically, it was a decent match, and it was pretty enjoyable to watch, but other than that, I mean, it was just there, to be honest, for me, in the cards as something to have from the cruiserweights. I quite like the Jack Gallagher heel thing. I like that change. I like him coming out in the kind of vest, shirt, and trousers and doing his thing. I think that's a good pairing, him and Brian Kendrick. When he's healing, and obviously Kendrick's heel as well. I think that works well. I would quite like to see more of them. It was a decent match. It actually kind of makes me think maybe I should start watching 205 Live again. But I don't really have much else to say about it. It didn't really stand out on the card for me.
For what it's
No, I
worth,
can't
they really ought to push this heel turn for Jack Gallagher and Evil Mary Poppins gimmick. That's just my 2 cents on it.
On a side point, that was actually the shortest match on the whole card. Only lasted 8 minutes. But looking through the timings of every match, there was only 3 matches on the entire card, other than on the actual main card, that went longer than 10 minutes, and that's Alexa Bliss against Mickie James, Demon versus AJ, and the main event. Those are the only 3 matches that went longer than 10 minutes. Everything else was in the 8-minute mark, 8 to 9 minutes at the most. It was weird.
Goes to show how much guff and filler they actually put in a pay-per-view, really, doesn't it?
I mean, just
I know, it was
ask while you've got the timings up, how long did the main event go?
35 minutes and 25 seconds.
There's why a lot of your matches were shorter, I suppose, because realistically about 10 minutes of that would usually have been cut off in their average main event, and it ran pretty much 3 hours dead. It wasn't even like there was a lot of filler throughout the card, I suppose, just there was a couple of the matches that went a really good length.
Yeah. But like the next match was Alexa Bliss versus Mickie James. Alexa Bliss defeated Mickie James, keeps the championship belt. I like that decision. I like Alexa Bliss as a heel. It was a nice notch in her belt to say that she's defeated one of the best women's champions that the WWE has ever had. Mickie James didn't get her 7th belt, which, you know, it would be nice to see her tie that record with Trish at some point. Obviously, it wasn't that night, but I'm liking the fact that Alexa gets to keep it, and she has that notch in her belt that she defeated Mickie James. It was an enjoyable match. I did like what those women did against each other, so I'd like to see maybe that match happen again at some point in the future. But for now, I'm enjoying Alexa Bliss's championship run, so it was a good match.
Yeah, see, I think they worked really well together. I really enjoyed their match. The double kick kind of knockout spot was fantastic. Beautifully timed from the 2 of them. That can go wrong if you're not on point with the other person. Just generally a really good match. I like Alexa. I'm kind of glad she's keeping the belt, but I'm kind of not as well. I kind of wish Mickie got it. I actually have a problem with how this match was built, though. All in all, taking it out of how it was built, the 2 of them worked fantastically together, and I really enjoyed the match. I do not like the fact that this match was built on Alexa pulling on Mickie James for being old. Mickie James is 38. If she was a man, this would never have been put on. This would never have went down the line of old at 38 for a man. So why would doing it for a woman? It just seems quite hypocritical. I didn't really enjoy that aspect of it. But that storyline writing doesn't take away from the fact that the 2 of them had a fantastic match together.
Yeah, again, like
Nice.
we kind of discussed this briefly before we come on. When it comes to the whole sort of age thing, John Cena's 40. John Cena's 2 years older than her. No one calls John Cena old. It does feel very dickish, and it's not necessarily fair to someone who genuinely they should have a higher respect for at this point for everything she's done. I honestly really enjoy Mickie James. I've enjoyed Mickie James for a long period of time. She's a great worker. Seems like a genuinely great human being as well. She deserves better. I really enjoyed the match. I felt like it worked out quite well. Like you said, double KO spot, that only works if you're doing it right. Something good between them, good charisma, good like sort of connection. Worked well, lots of nice spots. Can't really fault the match at all. Went a good length. Would have liked to have seen Mickie walk away with the belt, but I think they're saving that for a bigger occasion if she's going to be equaling Trish's record.
No, I can understand that. It would be nice to see it, but we'll see how it goes. Next match on the card was Enzo Amore against Kalisto for the Cruiserweight Championship. Enzo Amore managed just to take back the Cruiserweight Championship with shenanigans, thumb to the eye. His finisher then gets the win. it was an okay match. Enzo Amore's, better suited off in the cruiserweight division. Gets to have matches with guys who, more his size and more believable in terms of, the underdog. It does always seem that he's getting the beat down, then comes out with the win. I like the fact that they've turned him heel, but it is kind of strange that they're now other heels are aligning himself with Enzo Amore, given the fact that only a few weeks ago he was running down the entire roster, regardless of who you were, and insulting them. It's a little bit of a, hold on a second, you're just going to forget everything that he said to you before this, and you're just going to join up with him just because you're a heel. I would have rather liked to have seen Enzo versus the world. Even though he's still a heel, I would like to have seen the fact that the entire locker room hate him, but he doesn't care. He's still going to say what he wants to say. He's still going to do what he wants to do, regardless of who you are. It was just strange to see the fact that you're going to stick all the heels of Enzo, even though Enzo has insulted them for weeks. But that being said, it was an enjoyable match, and it's going to be interesting to see what Enzo does with his championship for the second time.
Coming from a bit of a different angle here, I just found it boring. I'm going to be honest. At this point, despite the fact that when he first came up, I really enjoyed him, Enzo has become, at this stage, for me, a less likeable Eddie Guerrero. That's really what he is at this point. I just don't have the same affinity for him that I did. It wasn't a bad match, and he definitely works better in the cruiserweights. It was just there. Again, it felt sort of very dull, and the finish screamed, well, we weren't really sure what we were doing. I get why it was a thump to the eye. I get they're trying to do the whole sort of, look at me, I'm like an Italian-American fucking Eddie Guerrero. But to do that, you've got to be as talented as Eddie. At this point, to do that, you have to be as over and as talented as Eddie, and I don't really feel like he's either of those.
I mean, I think compared to some of the other matches on this card, this one was definitely down on the bottom end for quality and enjoyment. It wasn't horrendous. It wasn't a terrible match. It was all right. I kind of interested to see where they're going to take this heel Enzo thing. I think he could work really well as a heel, but I think they need to do the right thing with him for it to work. So I'm kind of keeping my eyes open for this one to see. And I think as well, the move to the cruiserweights, I was thinking that for quite some time, that's where he should be. So I'm glad they've done that. So hopefully they continue and use them well. But it was just, and it was the same as Bohan. It was just kind of there for me.
No, I can understand that. I get where you come from. Like I said, it was an okay match, but we'll see how it goes in regards to that. Next match on the card was, as Bohan said, was probably the match of the night, if not one of the best matches that we've seen this year so far. Dubbed as one night only. It was AJ Styles being loaned from SmackDown to Raw to take the place of Bray Wyatt up against Demon Finn Balor. Absolutely sublime match. These guys just got in the ring too. They hadn't even touched the match, hadn't even started, and the crowd's already chanting, "This is awesome," which it was. Those two guys had never had a professional wrestling match. Well, I think AJ mentioned on Talking Smack they might have done years and years ago before, when Finn left the Bullet Club and AJ came in. There was never that crossover. They hadn't had a singles match properly against each other in a ring for a long time. So it was nice to see those two guys have what everyone was called a dream match. We didn't expect this to happen. We weren't expecting Finn to. We weren't expecting it to happen this year at all. If there was going to be a superstar shake-up next year, we didn't know when that was going to be. So it was one of those ones which it was a dream match that none of us ever thought was going to happen anytime soon, and it did. And it didn't fail to deliver. These guys put on an absolute clinic on how to put on a show that quickly. AJ Styles was on tour. He came up with 1 day's prep, 2 days at that, lack of sleep, still manages to put on an absolutely fantastic match with Finn Balor. And I think the right choice was made. I think Finn Balor needed that win against AJ Styles. It sets up Survivor Series and that sort of thing, but going forward, I think Finn needed the push, the strength to show that his demon is unbeatable, if you will. It is nice to have that whole storyline that no one's beat the Demon as of yet. People have beat Finn Balor, but no one's beat the Demon Balor, and AJ Styles wanted to be the first person to do that. And like I said, it was a fantastic match of the night. Wouldn't be surprised if it gets a Slammy for match of the year.
I mean, this was a match that didn't need build up. It's just two fantastic wrestlers going into the ring and doing what they do well. You put two guys in the ring who are that talented, you're going to have a fantastic match. I think everyone was excited to see it. That's why it was getting called the dream match. Everyone wanted to see it. I mean, you like said, people chanting "this is awesome" before they'd even started. And it just was really good. They worked well together. It was a well-paced match. The counting on each other's moves. There was some fantastic spots in there where they were counting on each other's moves. I'm glad Fergal won. I think it builds that whole no one's beat the Demon thing, which is nice. I'd like to see that keep going. Just really fantastic. Brilliant to watch. Enjoyed it. Well done to the both of them. Thank goodness for that match. Thank goodness for people being sick. I mean, you don't really want people to be sick, but circumstances being what they were, I think they did the best thing they could.
It's unfortunate that Bray Wyatt was sick. Let me preface it by saying that. But, I mean, at the same time, at least sickness finally forced their hand on this. I mean, AJ versus Fergal for custody of the Young Bucks was something I'd been waiting for. I was very happy to finally see it. It was a great match. As I said, second best match of the year for me. Literally the only thing that's topped it this year was AJ versus John Cena at the Rumble, which that's going to take a real undoing from someone in the last couple of months of this year if somebody's going to scoop that for match of the year for me. It was honestly incredible, but this match in itself was fantastic. Great spots, two guys with really fluid chemistry and a really good work rate. Holy shit, AJ Styles is just an absolute workhorse of a man, so he is. Like all the things you said, there's every reason that AJ should have put in a stinker because everybody's entitled to one. Did he fuck? Got exactly what I wanted out of this. Got that wonderful moment at the end where they were both in the ring, they two sweeted. This was something that we'd all wanted for a while because honestly, for fans in New Japan and people who'd been watching as long as I had, you saw the two of them, you saw the opportunity that you didn't get. Yeah, because they passed like ships in the night. AJ took over the day Fergal left. There was no opportunity for a match between them for who's the rightful leader of Bullet Club. We finally got it. We finally got it with a great ending. It was a fantastic match. It did so much to further both of these guys, and it put a big stamp on them, which makes it all the more upsetting that the night after they jobbed out fucking Fergal to Kane, but I'll let it go. I'll let it slide. This was an incredible match. It worked so well. There's so many great little spots. The two guys just seemed to know each other well enough. You got to see both of them do their own versions of the Pele, the overhead kick, which I really liked in and of itself as a spot. Just there was so much to love about this. It was never going to be anything other than match of the night on paper, and I'm really glad. I feel like it lived up to it.
Oh no, it definitely lived up to it. One thing I was hoping to see, and we still haven't seen it from AJ Styles yet, is this spiral tap. Do you think he'll ever get to use it?
I don't think he needs to. I mean, I think the role of that's kind of been taken up. Like, I think he's good enough at what he does at this stage, and he's got that kind of style down that he doesn't need it. I'd be interested to see if he wants to do it, but let's be fair to him. Look at the guy's age. Do you really want to be putting yourself through that and taking those kind of risks? You're already doing the 450. There's too much sort of risk versus the reward on that one, I think, personally. Be nice to see it. Might come out at some point as like a sort of, here we go, I need to shoot someone in the fucking head urgently kind of move. Best kept for that at the very least.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
I was going to say, I think it can maybe be kept in the back pocket. Is that like, I seriously need to put this person down and all my other offense has not worked. I think they could use it that way. I don't think they need to, but might be quite nice to see.
No, definitely. Okay, so the next match was brings me to our next point, was Jason Jordan versus Elias. did anybody really? The whole Jason Jordan throwing through to Elias, I was pissing myself. Like, by the time it came out and Elias was in the ring for the third time that night, I was pissing myself laughing. Not through the fact that this is funny. I was pissing myself laughing that they're trying to get him over. I was like, what are you trying to do here? You want to set up a match with Jason Jordan through having the guy throw fruit at Elias. It just made no sense to me. It was laughable. It was really laughable, and this match meant nothing. It was a filler match, and I did not care for it at all. It just made no sense. And throwing fruit is just, it's harkening back to the days of sophomoric humor that, okay, this guy can't play the guitar that well, and he certainly can't sing that well, so let's throw fruit at him. It just made no sense. I was not a fan.
No, I really wasn't a fan of that either. I didn't get it. Jason Jordan, like we all want Elias to stop singing, but him coming out with the trolley and the fruit and veg, it just made him look like an idiot. Like, what is your motivation for doing this other than to get him to stop singing? Do you know what would be better if you want him to stop singing? Come out and hit him from behind. If you're going to do something like that, make it interesting, build it up. And again, with that, like every time I saw Elias come out and try to sing with that fucking guitar, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Because that's what I think every time I see it. And then to have it 3 times in one night, it was just ridiculous. And the match wasn't that great either. And it totally was, I feel, 100% filler.
I'm going to be the lone dissenting opinion here for what it's worth. The only thing I enjoyed about this match was the build-up. I actually got a little kick out of it. Maybe that just shows that this is who it was aimed at then. Like, maybe I represent that portion of the audience. But I kind of enjoyed him coming out and ruining the song every time. It spoke to my inner child that loves to break things and ruin stuff. I really enjoyed those little segments. And then the match came on, and the only 2 words I've got for notes for this are obvious filler. It was there because they felt like they had to have something to space the card out. And I get that. We didn't really need this match. I enjoyed the build-up more than I enjoyed the match, in the same sense that I enjoy the fashion films. It was just little sort of offbeat segments that kind of made me smile. The actual match itself was just... what are we doing with Jason Jordan? Because that boy is capable. That boy can work. Why aren't you giving him an opportunity to, realistically? Like, if you want to set him up for success, you actually have to set him up for success. I get that you're trying to use him to help Elias at this point, but Elias is a dead cause. I don't know why they brought him up when they did. The crowd haven't reacted to him. They didn't react to him at NXT. When you can't get your gimmick over at NXT, it's probably a non-starter. Those fans are pretty welcoming. They let a lot of things happen. They take a lot of stuff on the chin, stuff that doesn't work on the main roster, like the Vaudevillains, gets over down there. So when they're chanting drift away at you, you're doing something that isn't working, and they need to learn to accept that.
No, definitely. But, it is what it is. Certainly, I was like, I just did not enjoy that in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, Jason Jordan, he's worth so much more. I mean, that match itself, lasted 8 minutes and 50 seconds. If it was obvious filler, why couldn't you have taken those 9 minutes and given them to Finn Balor and AJ Styles? Give them a 25-minute, half-hour match. You didn't need to have that match there. It made no sense. It didn't need to be there. You could have given those 2 guys a longer match, and the crowd would have still absolutely ate it up. They wouldn't have been bored. Those 2 guys could have fought for an hour, and we still would have eaten up every minute of it. But that being said, the last match of the night.
At some later stage, by the way, we could well get an Iron Man match out of the 2 of them. I see no reason they couldn't work for an hour together.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. That would be so good. And I would love to see it. Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart Iron Man match. No guy gets a full hour, and it has to go to sudden death. That's what I want.
Yeah, no, that's like a dream, isn't it? Somebody, we should just send this to somebody at WWE, all the matches we want to see that we've created tonight. and just be like, make this for us, please. They probably wouldn't. They definitely wouldn't. But I really want to see the matches we've thought of tonight so far.
Oh no, definitely. Oh, one second. I'll be 2 minutes. I just need to wrap this up. 1 minute.
So, while James is away, we will have a brief intermission of conversation. Something about wrestling. Aren't the Young Bucks just absolutely the shit? Aren't they? Aren't they, Claire? Don't you think the Young Bucks?
I'll just be 2 minutes, guys. I just need to go and somewhere.
I will cover.
I'm sorry, Charles. I just need to go and do something. If you guys want to talk about the main event, I'll jump in 2 minutes, okay?
So, in the absence of our host, I guess I'll take the hosting duties. So, the main event, the multi-man match. What can you say about this? There was literally all the spots in this match. All the goddamn spots. Chairs raining down on Braun Strowman. Brawny the Strowman being deposited into a garbage truck and taken away. Kurt Angle returning. I think, personally, for me, it speaks volumes about Braun Strowman's development as well. The small touches, like cradling Kurt as he put him through that table and stuff, because you'd never have expected to see that out of the boy about a year ago. Didn't feel like he had that kind of level of awareness or ability to him. I mean, when you look at sort of that match as a whole, there were so many like sort of little memorable moments within it. They got the most out of Kurt that they could without putting him in danger. Like, they didn't need to put him through some of like the stuff that went on during that. They built a good story. They told their own internal stories within the teams of dissension, man being taken away. It was well built. It contained a lot of sort of oh fuck moments. There's really not much else that can be said about it. It was just an all-round great match with so many fundamental great spots. You could sit here for hours and rattle on about this and name different things that happened. It just honestly spoke for itself as a piece, though. It felt quite long, but not in a bad way, not in that sort of, oh my God, when is this going to be over way? More in a kind of surprise, like, they're really getting the most out of the time out of this. Kane versus Strowman's a great feud to come. So, I mean, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this match.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely long, but it didn't. I was aware it was long, but I wasn't like, oh God, this is so long. Please turn it off now, the way I often get with matches that go for this length of time that aren't built well. This was really built well. I think they did a good job of all working together. There were like quite a lot of turning on the teammates, turning on each other that kind of gave me a bit of whiplash. It was going on so much. But all in all, I think everybody came out of this looking really well. I liked seeing Kurt back. I think this is earlier than they really wanted to put him in. But I think it was a nice place to substitute him in when they needed somebody. I think he worked well in the match. I'm glad he didn't do anything stupid that could have got him hurt. Obviously, there's lots of spots that can be done in a TLC match that, you know, could have injured him if he wasn't being safe and wasn't protecting his neck, but that's not what happened, which I was really glad to see. I really, really enjoyed the kind of stuff with Kane and Braun. I mean, that through the stage and then pulling the chairs down on him, that was just fabulous. I think we rewound that a couple of times to watch it, just because it was so enjoyable. And then just that beautiful moment where Braun starts to emerge again, and you see just Kane looking dumbfounded that he's managed to get back out of this pit of chairs that he's pulled down on top of him. That was really nice, and I do think Bohan's right. I think that'll be a nice feud in the future, and I do think this match really did show Strowman's build, his development that he's obtained over the recent year. He really, I mean, if you put him in this match maybe a year ago, we would have been looking at Strowman thinking, oh, awful green, kind of standing out as awful green. Not anymore. He really held his own in this. Garbage truck was interesting, but I mean, used pretty well. All in all, really did enjoy the match. Glad they spent the time they spent on it, actually. Spots everywhere, spots for days. And yeah, just nice to see Kirk back. Nice to see him taking the pin. I mean, you've got to give it to him on his first one back. I mean, I kind of saw that coming, but it was still nice. It was all well done. And I think you set up a good few things for the future with it, which is always nice to come out of something like that, doing some setup for the future.
Two kind of quick points, actually. One is that if you're the Miz, that's a great round off to your career, getting pinned by Kurt Angle. You've got to be looking up, going, yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm happy to lay down for the 3-second tan on this one. And second, Braun Strowman's Mike Myers. He's Freddy Krueger. He's a fucking horror villain at this point, because you do everything you can to keep him down. You maybe keep him down for a couple of minutes, but when he emerges, he's just pissed off. You haven't killed him. You've just made him angry. Have we got a host back yet?
Sorry about that, guys. I'm back now.
That worked out.
On the main event, James.
What's your thoughts on the main event?
My thoughts on the main event. I enjoyed it. From everything from Kurt Angle coming in with the Shield and the bumps that he took, and then going off for a while, and then coming back to his own music, and then just hitting angle slam after angle slam. And like one of the commentators said, it's like Kurt Angle is the true owner of Suplex City. One of the founders of Suplex City was Kurt Angle, just the Germans he was delivering as well. It was a nice link there, and I would love to see maybe a tease between Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar at some point in the future again. And they put on a nice match before. It would be nice to see that happen again if it did. But no, I enjoyed the main event. Kane versus Kane and Strowman turning on each other was a nice twist. I wasn't expecting that. And then all the destruction that Kane put on Strowman, the choke slam through the stage, and then Kane dropping that absolute, that stack of chairs that's been hanging from the ceiling, dropping all of those onto him, and then Strowman still getting up, and then Strowman getting put into the back of the garbage truck. All of that was just nice spots. The Miz and the Bar, held up their end as well. They did. Everybody got their stuff in. It was a nice way to finish it. And Angle getting the finish and Angle getting the pin after as Cody Grace the Olympic Shield bomb. It was a nice way to finish that match, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Wasn't the match of the night, but it was certainly the second best match on that card.
I kind of said it briefly. I don't know if you caught it, but at this point, as I just said, Braun Strowman's very much a horror villain. You don't manage to kill him, you just piss him off.
Oh no, definitely is. It's almost a cliche. What doesn't kill him makes him stronger. It's like you can't seem to put the guy down. He's just coming back at you. I like Strowman. Like Claire said, I don't think he would have been ready for this match a year ago. It just goes to show you how well he's developed in the year that he's been on the main roster. It's a nice way of seeing Braun develop as a person, as a wrestler. Outside of the ring, he's supposed to be a lovely guy, but he certainly has that. He can turn that persona on very well. So it is nice to see. So hopefully we get to see more of Strowman. Hopefully we get to see more of Strowman on the main event scene. I could see him definitely holding a big belt at some point in the future. But no, from top to bottom, I think between Hell in a Cell and TLC, Raw Edge this one, I think TLC was the better of the pay-per-views between the two. Hell in a Cell was fantastic. There were some brilliant matches, but I just think with the quality that was there, there wasn't really much in the way of filler for this card. I think for me, TLC wins out in terms of the pay-per-views themselves.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that one. I think for me personally, Hell in a Cell had the two standout Hell in a Cell matches, and then everything else was all right-ish. But I don't think there was anything really in the middle of that card that was serious, like, oh my god, this is amazing sort of stuff. Whereas I think TLC, there were like two matches that I wasn't all that fussed about, but everything else was really solid, really high grade, good matches. So I think TLC won this one.
You can't put AJ and Fergal on a card and expect me not to call it the better card. Realistically, as a whole, TLC definitely felt like a fundamentally better booked show and a more solid show. It felt like it didn't have the same dips in quality. It felt like they didn't try and force the stipulation into matches, which again lends credence to the point of let's just not have these branded match pay-per-views anymore. because at the end of the day, there's no reason you can't have these matches without having a pay-per-view called it and having to have them. It worked well. It was quite enjoyable. It was the better show of the two, and it contained, through pure accident, quite possibly one of the best matches we'll see all year and for quite some time. So yeah.
No, definitely. But I think that's probably a good point as any to close out the show tonight. We've gone on for probably a lot longer than we normally do just because of the two pay-per-views we ran through tonight, but certainly it was a good show. So from myself, it's good night.
It's good night from me.
And it's, oh God, he's coming out of the chairs from me.
And thanks for listening to Talking Trash. We will catch you again next time.